Over my 12 years in mission work and 13 or 14 years as a professor at John Carroll, I've come to think of bridges both literally and metaphorically as a way of conquering obstacles and trying to use this to find a better way. When we think of a bridge, many different structures and styles come to mind. One of the first for me is the Golden Gate Bridge, with all the majesty and the suspension as it dangles over the San Francisco Bay. Perhaps a more local bridge to Cleveland may be the Lorraine Carnegie Bridge, with the guardians of the city etched into the stone pillars at the entrances between the Ohio City and downtown Cleveland. It may seem like a strange comparison, but I look at mission work as really not like you just build the bridge and the job is done. It requires a lot of maintenance, and it requires the continual support of whatever that project is that you're doing. I've never really been a fan of mission work where organizations come in for a short period of time and then leave. It has to be something that's sustainable, something that's actually going to continue to build the community, not just something that just continues to just give things away. Ultimately, without bridges and connections, crossing certain obstacles would be impossible. And sometimes, in order to continue on, you need help building that bridge.
Bueno, mi nombre es Elsie, soy de la comunidad de Naguara. Bueno, en el caso de vivir en una comunidad como Naguara, ¿verdad? Es una de las aldeas, podríamos decir que remotas, en cuanto a no contamos con electricidad, no se cuenta con internet, y pues ahí en la aldea solo se logra sacar la educación primaria, lo básico. Bueno, en mi caso, pues yo estudié hasta lo de la preparatoria, digamos, el colegio. Y pues ya para asistir a la universidad, pues fue un reto grande, podríamos decir, un desafío que, bueno, gracias a Dios ya por hoy ya lo culminé, pero presenté muchas dificultades, ¿verdad? En cuanto a lo de la electricidad, como les repito, lo del internet fue bien difícil, y luego cuando se vino la pandemia, pues teníamos que ir a buscar señal, porque como no podíamos salir de un lado a otro, entonces para lograr hacer tareas, recibir las tutorías y eso, pues teníamos que ir allá a una montaña a buscar señal. Y pues Dave siempre me ayudó bastante en esta situación, pues cuando yo necesitaba un teléfono inteligente para hacer las tareas, para recibir las tutorías, él pues me lo regaló. Cuando necesité una computadora, también fue él quien me ayudó en eso. Y pues gracias a Dios, hoy por hoy, ¿verdad? Ya logré recibir mi título universitario, gracias a Dios y a la colaboración que yo he tenido de él y de mi familia. Y pues gracias a la oportunidad que él me brindó, pues podemos optar, ¿verdad?, por un buen empleo, aunque es un poco difícil, ¿verdad?, encontrarlo, pero ya se tiene una posibilidad más. Y pues gracias a él, porque así puedo yo brindar un mejor futuro para mí, mi familia y mis hijos.
I met Elsie on my first trip to Honduras over spring break in 2011. We were in a bus traveling up a rocky mountain in a bus that I wasn't sure if it was actually going to be able to make this trip. And about halfway up the mountain, Elsie got on the bus and she sat next to me. Although I didn't speak Spanish and she didn't speak English, I had opened up some trail mix that I had and I shared this with her. She said something to an interpreter about how she would love some, and she started eating it. And it was later that I found out how hungry she actually was, and that she might not have eaten in several days. This broke my heart and opened my eyes to the glaring issue of some of the basic necessities that people in Naguara needed. There are many towns and villages very similar to Naguara, and they all have the same basic needs for food and water, electricity, and education. I truly believe that everyone has their own Naguara, and perhaps it's right in front of them. It does not need to be in Central America. It can be just down the street. It can be across the street. It can be in your own neighborhood. But I also understand why many won't find it. It's not an easy vacation, but it is something where you'll make memories that will last a lifetime. Every time I go to say goodbye to my wife Nellie and my dog Mabel, it's just as hard as the first time. But they understand that this is a small price to pay for the lifelong friendships that we make and the people that we're able to help just by doing some of these small efforts. Elsie's story and the many more I would learn of while on my first trip would go on to inspire me to start my own nonprofit for the greater good and lead me to returning 25 more times. It started first with my decision to leap into the mission work and meeting Elsie. And what came after I had expected, but I had not seen before, and I still wasn't prepared to see it firsthand. That thing would be water. Throughout my stays in Honduras, I, as well as many volunteers, spent most of our time at the Sociedad Amigos de los Niños, an organization that was founded in 1966 by Sister Maria Rosa. She's a woman regarded as the Mother Teresa of Honduras. And as you will hear, this title is well deserved. With her tireless 70 years of dedicated work geared towards caring for orphans and their families, she's an individual you will hear referenced many times. According to the Planet Water Foundation, an estimated 81% of rural households lack access to managed sanitized water sources and often resort to drinking from streams and rivers and hand-dug wells. Coming from Cleveland, Ohio, this is something that I wasn't really used to. We're so blessed to have the ability to brush your teeth with the tap water or take a shower and wash your face with the water coming out of the shower and not be worried about getting the water in your eyes. This is something that I had to warn those that travel with me about. Lately, I've been lucky enough to have several students come with me on numerous trips. As you'll hear from several of them about this experience, the water situation is dire.
When I arrived in Honduras, it wasn't anything I wasn't too surprised by. My family's from Mexico, so I'm used to kind of that warm environment and kind of with that culture. So I was kind of just expecting a very similar environment. Due to the lack of clean water, everyone is drinking Coca-Cola. It's just very natural, especially in Central America, South America. Coca-Cola is very popular, so diabetes is very, very rampant. You see people with leg amputations and they need insulin, and it's very expensive down there. So we're giving out some of that and giving some just different methods on how to deliver insulin and how to provide aid for some people down there.
When it comes to the water crisis there, I actually had done some research with Dr. Clifford and Dr. Swearingen trying to figure out if there was a better way to distribute water filters, because the amount of people there that don't have access to clean water, it's heartbreaking to think about. They have to rely on other people from other countries supplying clean water when drinkable and clean water should be a human right, a basic human right that they don't have. The water filters that they receive from groups that are visiting from out of town or other countries or churches, they work for a certain amount of time. The issue is that they need to be maintained, and a lot of the people forget to backflush the filters and make sure that everything is working. So what we do is we have water brigades, and on those water brigades we go from village to village to village, similar to how medical brigades work, and each family will come with their water filter. They'll have to demonstrate to us how they clean the filter, how they backwash it, and we'll do testing. We'll take samples to test the water once we get back to Cleveland and make sure that there are no chemicals. And based on the function of the filter itself, we have extras that we bring as donations to replace them, and we also will correct and reteach them. A lot of the children will present with a lot of symptoms such as diarrhea, vomiting, fever, and a lot of it is due to the water. So there are many children that are drinking the water straight from the faucet that is not filtered, and as a result they get really, really sick because of it. Sometimes it can even be deadly.
On a recent trip to Honduras, we noticed that in one of the schools in a village, many of the children were sick due to parasites and things that they may have acquired from the drinking water. The village was literally out of water, so the kids were drinking whatever they could from the rivers and streams that were contaminated with many different bacterias and E. coli. This became something that personally to me, I couldn't walk away from. And we came up with an idea that might seem kind of unique and revolutionary, but it really wasn't that difficult to figure out. We were able to get our hands on a water dispenser like maybe perhaps you would see in your office. And we knew that the orphanage was getting 5-gallon jugs of water delivered on a weekly basis. So we worked out a deal with the orphanage where they would basically get 10 or 15 jugs of water a week extra that we would pay for them, that we would pay them, and these jugs would then be distributed to the school up in the mountain. This was a tremendous opportunity for the kids to actually have clean drinking water on a regular basis, and it became another reason why parents should be sending their kids to school. So we found that there was just this opportunity to have clean drinking water, although it seems so simple, was a draw for kids to come to school. Because of the individualistic and personalized care this organization delivers, Sister Maria Rosa and those who worked beside her have been able to supply water, food, clothing, housing, and schooling to tens of thousands of children in a desperate situation in Honduras. Despite her tragic passing in 2020, the organization continues to live on, and her legacy continues. Her legacy continues particularly through Marina.
My name is Rosa Marina Reyes Chavez. I've been working from San for more than 15 years ago, but I like to think that I have more time of that because both of my parents were raised by sister in the orphan. So I was raised near sister, and she was like my grandma. My name was because, and I feel proud of that. I don't tell this story too much because I'm a little shy of it, but my name was because of sister Rosa, and Marina because of my mom. And seeing my parents were really near to her, and she decided to put this name to myself. So I feel proud, and I also encourage me to do my best in everything I do because I have the name of the two women that were really important in my life. I truly believe to follow the legacy of sister. She was a 6-year-old girl that dreamed to help orphans and to help Honduran people. So I feel that every life that we can touch by a smile, by saying a hi, hello, giving medicines, or helping build, or even the interaction the volunteers have with the orphans that can make people believe that they can do what they dream and be the light to somebody's life. That will be like my major goal to accomplish. And I hope that this is like a chain, that if I help you, you can continue helping another person and that person continues. So that will make a better world, better life. In the work, in sociedad, I think that it's hard because she already has like a name work out in Honduras. So it was easy going to everywhere and say Sister Maria Rosa, and everyone was opening the doors, okay, and helping us. But after she passed away, I think that most of the people thought that the organization was gonna die or gonna expire because we didn't have sister. but wasn't worried about if we will continue or will not, because God knows who He will send. And I think that is a proof that we continue working and we can continue changing life in name of her and her vocation that God gives to her. What can I say? Personal part, that is really hard, you know. I know that we are born to die. That's the way life is, but she was a big pillar in my life. She was my role model. She was my safe place. And not having her is hard. But I truly believe that she's with God and God is everywhere. So when I feel that sometimes it's hard, I feel her spirit. And as crazy as you can hear, some people can come near me and they say the phrase of sister, or I'm seeing on social media, and then it appears some spots of the documentary. So I truly believe that she's still with us and that she continue praying from heaven to this legacy continue. I truly believe that we are part of a big plan of God, and I have received the blessing of feeling the happiness of helping others, and it cannot compare for any else, in my opinion, that you receive or you have in your life. To see a smile, or to see, for example, the kids at first that were so happy for the room, the new classroom, and even the teachers, okay, and see how the community come together to help to build that project. Is priceless. I think that that emotion, the emotion of helping others, cannot be given by any other. And I truly believe that there are different ways to do it. Some people is people that would like to come down and do the work by hands. Other people would like to send money. Other people would like to tell to friends to raise money. So I think that there are many opportunities out of the way that you can help. If you want to help, you just decide the way you want to do it. And every penny, every prayer, if you want to just pray for us, if you want to send money, it can be any chance, okay, to help and continue this legacy. And the work of Dr. Clifford, of course, the great.
Much like the Sociedad Amigos de los Niños, a huge focus of my work has been providing and easing the access to education in these areas where countless obstacles present themselves. Elsie isn't the only person I supported throughout their education. During my time here, I also met Kevin.
My name is Kevin. I'm a nurse. I was raised in the projects of Sociedad Amigo de los Niños. I came as a benefactor in 2004. I come from a rural area in Puerto Cortes, in the north coast of Honduras, where we don't have access to education. You just go to 6th grade and that's it. You start working in the farm, you start working fishing. There is not much future back at home. But in 2004, I had the opportunity of coming to Sociedad, which opens a lot of opportunities to me. It was 2014 when I really met David Clifford. I was in a transition home that was, the last project I was part. I remember we started having coffee. He had this vanilla creamer, and we just start talking, but never I expect that one day he will become a really good friend. Being part of his brigade, I started getting to know the real Dave, as I said, seeing his spirits to help others. It's amazing because I have been able to see his main focus, which is education. I can see that he really worries, and for me, like if you think about a third world country, like how you can describe it, Honduras, the lack of opportunities that we have in the country, it's what lead us to poverty. That's my definition for poverty, the lack of opportunities. And what Dave is doing with his job is providing this opportunity to kids. In 2020, 21, it was during the pandemic. I remember being home and I got this call phone, somebody very close to Sister Maria Rosa, that they need a nurse. And I had the honor and privilege of taking care as a living saint. That's how I'll describe it. And to be honest, now that I can see the whole picture, being here, whether as a volunteer, whether if they call me to work on a medical brigade, this is my family. This is the people I see more often than my own family. This is the people I grew. I remember having this conversation with David Clifford about what you guys mean to us, more than just coming for a day, for a week, helping and then leaving. But for those who decide to come back through the year, you guys become our family. It takes me back to my hometown where as I say, we didn't have much opportunities. My biggest example, it was my uncle who has a very small boat to go fishing, and that's it. I didn't have much inspiration in life. It was hard at first to get on track in education because I didn't have an example to follow. But when you guys were coming, and I'll get to know you, and it was like, oh, what do you do for a living? And you start saying, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, I'm an architecture. So then I realized that I can be a doctor, I can be whatever I want. And Sociedad, it was providing me these opportunities. But as I said, at first, it was hard to get to see it because we don't count it. Education is not normalized in our areas. So what you guys are doing here, this is beyond than just a week of a medical or a school brigade.
Getting to know Kevin, I just knew it wouldn't be right to let this much intelligence be let down by the system in place. And sadly, I think this with almost every child I meet. Through my sponsorship, I got to watch him grow into the man he is today, a college graduate who has dedicated himself to giving back and aiding the very community that raised him when he had no family to turn to. Here in Honduras, the government only provides free education through 6th grade, so only 30% will ever go to high school. It's devastating to me to know how many of these kids have the capacity for so much, yet aren't given the opportunities to achieve greatness. One major ongoing project of For the Greater Good lies about an hour drive from the orphanage in the village of Flor Azul. Here I met a teacher named Christina, who was busy teaching a class comprised of K through 6th grade, all stuffed inside one tiny room. There she was standing in front of the class with a giant cardboard box with a hole cut in the front to make it look like a TV. The children were watching so intently as I witnessed a visual learning experience like I had never seen in my life. She became a very inspirational person in my life as I watched her use something so basic as a way to teach. The School of Flor Azul has been the primary focus of this year for myself and those who have traveled with me. With March 2nd, 2024 marking the beginning of a mission I knew would be rough. Alongside me were 4 students from John Carroll University. Some of them I've met before, some this trip was our first encounter. But that kind of thing doesn't matter quickly when you're moving cement blocks in the glaring heat. Suddenly everyone feels very familiar in those moments.
My first time ever in Honduras was with my university my sophomore year. It was to provide medical brigades, and as a aspiring physician, this is something that I absolutely wanted to do. I just didn't know that after I left that I'd have a burning desire to come back, and I was searching for a way to come back, and that's when Dr. Clifford reached out to me and provided me that avenue. So Honduras is one of the more impoverished nations in Central America. They struggle with access to education as well as access to clean water. And through our work with Sociedad Amigos de los Niños, we've been able to identify communities around the area where we're based out of and identify which ones require more attention in that realm. And specifically to the greater good, we've been able to identify that Flor Azul had a less than ideal education building for their 5th graders. So we've been able to raise money and go down there and help them build a school. And now they've shifted around the grades so that their grade school kids are able to use that building.
It was shocking at first. One of the schools didn't even have a roof. As a matter of fact, it was half torn down already. The schools had no AC, they have no electricity. It's the bare minimum you can think of, floor and brick and a metal roof. That's it. And it was hard to see how a lot of students would even take their shirt off because it's so hot inside of the building. So they would be sitting in class shirtless because it's so hot. And there's no water, there's no clean water there as well for the kids. It was just definitely an eye-opener for what these kids have to go through every day. And they have to walk from their house to the school. Most parents don't even have a way of transportation, and these schools are in top of the mountains, so they have to walk sometimes miles to get to school. And then once they get to school, it's also really beat down. So it was a really big eye opener for me. And we thought about how could we help these people and give them a better educational environment. When we were building the school, we would take breaks when it would get super hot, and we were building while the children had school. So we would go into the classrooms, all the guys, and we would teach the kids simple English sentences, as well as we sang the song and played head, shoulders, knees, and toes. We would make it into a competition and bring suckers for the kids. And then I think that was one of the coolest moments I've had done there, besides opening the school. But it was just amazing to see these kids, even in the roughest conditions, having fun, enjoying their time with us, and learning as well.
One of our students, Vlad, he brought his drone, and we were able to use this to show the students something that they have never seen before, and see the aerial view of their community, see something that was man-made, that was flying overhead, and they could take aerial shots of their school and their homes and the soccer fields. So this gave them a really tremendous opportunity to see things that they have never seen before, and allow them to dream and think about maybe places that they haven't been before. So right after Memorial Day this year, myself and some of the students headed back down to Honduras to take some video and also paint the school building. This was a remarkable experience, as we got to see the transformation of a cement block building into the beautiful colors with Honduran blues. And it was just a remarkable experience to see the entire community come together and help us bring this building to life. One of the things that we did was to have this really cool party with all of the kids, and the Boulder College of Business was kind enough to give us a lot of things that we could share with the kids, share with the students. We had some LaunchNet rockets that we gave. We had t-shirts for all of the students, along with toys and candy, cupcakes, and of course, Coca-Cola. We also had coloring books donated by a nonprofit to help reiterate in the minds of the children the importance of making sure that the water filters are cleaned and properly used. All of this progress is beyond words, but my favorite moments will always be getting to see volunteers playing ball, laughing, and running around with the kids during breaks. With so much going on in their lives, it's nice to see these kids be able to just be kids. I can only hope mine and other efforts will lead to more of that. One thing that my students noticed during their time, in a way I couldn't, was just how much the lack of education and resources further worsens the chances of better health care. Because of their education in medicine and involvement in the clinics through John Carroll, they were able to bring a unique perspective to every act of service.
Working in the clinic was an absolute privilege for me. It is unfortunate to see just how much of disparity exists between the United States healthcare and Latin American healthcare, specifically Honduran healthcare. It seems as though everything that in that clinic is not of U.S. standard, as in the latest and greatest and state of the art, but they still are incredibly resourceful people, and I've been able to shadow some of the most incredible physicians, highly trained physicians that have been able to work miracles with less than ideal circumstances. I truly believe that my path going forward is different now that I've been able to visit Honduras 4 times. And what I mean by that is I always knew I wanted to be a physician and help people, but after attending the immersion trip to Honduras and seeing the healthcare disparities in a third world country, I know that my calling is in medicine in a third world country, in developing countries. I want to be able to take the gifts God have given me and give them to those less fortunate, to the people that don't look like me, to the comfortable standard I've had here in Cleveland for all my life. I'd like to travel abroad. I'd like to serve internationally.
Coming from a nation that already lacks education, watching doctors pursue their med school journeys and their journey as a doctor is really enlightening, because their pursuit for medicine is very wholesome and it's true to themselves, as they're not always able to provide for themselves. It's very different than here in the United States. We had a clinic in Nuevo Paraíso that was run by very few physicians, so there was, the ER was 24 hours, however there was specialties that weren't always available, such as GI specialties, orthopedics, etc. And they were only there for a few hours every week, once a week. And individuals that were in the community had to go to these public clinics because the private clinics costed money out of pocket. And there's a problem there. So there wasn't necessarily always a doctor readily available for the people of Honduras. Although there is a lack of doctors in the clinic, they're all very welcoming and they love having students shadow them. So I was lucky enough to shadow Dr. Omar Posas, where I was shadowing overnight with him, and we had a lady come in and she was pregnant. Her water immediately bursted, and he was kind of coaching me through what to do with the pregnancy, how to treat the patient, how to treat the newborn, and it was just such a great experience. It was very transformative.
A big part of the issues that we notice is that all around, whether it's for kids, whether it's adults, there is a huge lack in education of what to do and what not to do to take care of one's health. A good example of this is during my time in the clinic, I was able to sit in on a lot of births and pregnancies, work with a lot of pregnant women, and what broke my heart was the amount of women that were aged 14 to 16 years old. And it's simply due to a lack of sex education, so that's one example. Another example is the water. When people are not aware of the health risks that come with drinking water from the faucet, they're just going to keep drinking water from the faucet because it's all they have, and they're not going to prioritize keeping their filters clean. During the emergency medicine shifts that I worked in the 24-hour clinic, we saw a lot of incidents that were actually work-related. One person had been missing part of his hand, several fingers, because in his job a pipe had exploded. And when we were treating him, I looked at his other hand and he was missing 2 other fingers, and he brushed it off and was like, "Oh, this is normal here." this was a different work incident. So there's a lot of dangers that are associated with working, whether it's unsafe work conditions. We received a lot of patients that had a lot of pulmonary issues due to the fact that they were working in areas, for example, in tobacco factories, and they're inhaling it every single day, and they would need to be using a medication or a nebulizer. In regards to mission trips, volunteer trips, service trips, whatever you want to call them, before Honduras, I had actually, I believe in total, I've done 7 of them by now. So I just came back from my 7th mission trip. And when I say mission trip, I mean going somewhere, being in solidarity with the people, living life with them, learning, but also letting them learn from us. It's a two-way street. And with every experience, I've grown and changed in a different way, but something about Honduras was different. And the best way to describe it is after leaving there, I left a piece of my heart there with the people, with the children, with every patient we saw in the medical brigades. You know, you grow to love the people, and when you go back to the same place over and over, you develop relationships in ways that you never can if you're just going to one place then going to another place. For me, a big point of growth was Spanish. I changed my major in college to Spanish because I wanted to be trilingual as a future physician. Luckily, I can say that I am now, especially after these 6 weeks working in a clinical setting. Additionally, I would say prior to this last trip that I took, my interest was always like trauma surgery, somnology, different kinds of medicine, but especially after being helping out with so many deliveries and just being with the pregnant woman, learning more about their conditions, their families, working with gynecologists. I'm really interested in obstetrics and gynecology, so it's interesting to know that a trip like this could have completely altered what I want to do career-wise.
For each physician, there's over 1,000 civilians, a statistic that illustrates the impossible battle those in the medical field face here. With long walks to work, holding the danger of heat stroke, a sip of water holding deadly bacteria, and tiny mosquitoes carrying countless potential diseases. In this kind of environment, the simplest action can turn deadly in the blink of an eye. The journey to a hospital bed can be fraught with obstacles, from impassable roads to financial constraints. Yet amidst these challenges, dedicated healthcare professionals and NGOs tirelessly work to bridge the gap.
There are places so dangerous, the cops can't even go in without military backup.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions has said MS-13 qualify as a terror organization.
Most women don't have faith in the police.
MS-13 motto is kill, rape, and control.
You're signing your own death warrant to go to police.
Almost 500 Honduran civilians were being killed each month.
How powerful is that piece of paper in this country?
How powerful is a bullet?
If you do nothing, somebody in your family will die.
Violence is sadly inescapable. No matter where on the globe you may reside, violence is sure to be found there in some form. However, the pervasive presence of gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 have wreaked havoc on the lives of thousands for decades. During the Cold War, civil wars broke out across Central America and left an era of violence which still lingers today across the Northern Triangle countries, including Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. With the highest homicide rate in Central America and the second highest in all of Latin America, Honduras has always been seen as a dangerous country, and looking at the news, it should come at no surprise. Continuous reports of murder and kidnappings flood the stations daily and leave the people of cities like Tegucigalpa and San Pedro Sula fearing for their lives. With the trips that we make to Honduras, one of the first things that comes to people's mind is it safe? And we do take precautions necessary to provide the safest possible environment. We have skilled drivers and armed guards that are very knowledgeable about the local gang areas and how to keep us safe. However, I do understand there's no guarantee. Of course, things could happen. But we all know from the violence that we see here in the United States that it can happen anywhere at any time. So we try to make sure that we take all the proper measures and precautions. Just because we've been able to avoid actually seeing some of these atrocities happen doesn't mean they don't happen. One of the boys I had a chance to meet, he had a great little business as a wood carver. And in a situation that he had no control over, his brother was actually killed by one of the gangs because he owed them some money. So the gang came after him. Unfortunately, he didn't have the money, and he had to escape the city and travel thousands of miles to get to the United States. He has now applied for asylum to help him save his life.
When I was working as a volunteer in the clinic, one of the things that I immediately noticed and was so grateful to have was everybody there treated me like I was their family. The nurses, the doctors, they took me in like I was their own. And I was only there for 6 weeks. Some people say that's a long time. I truly believe it wasn't long enough. But at the end of those 6 weeks, it was really hard to leave my family behind. There was one nurse specifically that immediately when she met me, she was the sweetest thing, and she treated me like a mother treats her daughter, and I couldn't pinpoint it. I tried so hard to pinpoint why this woman all of a sudden went out of her way to check on me, to make sure I was okay, to give me so much love. And one day I found out the reason. She sat me down and she said, Selena, there's something I haven't told you. And she said around the time that I had landed in Honduras, her daughter, her 12-year-old daughter, had been killed. And she told me that she prayed and she prayed and she just needed somebody to help her through it. And all of a sudden she had met me. And it broke my heart into a million pieces to watch a mother grieve, but also see how much she was fighting to keep pushing forward and to keep living. And she told me that I reminded her so much of what her daughter would have been, that I was a daughter to her. Every day she would swap shifts to make sure that she could see me. And before I left the country, she gave me a few gifts, but one of them was the most important. She handed me a hair clip, and it was a hair clip from her daughter. And she said, when you go back to the US, I want you to wear this, and I want you to remember her and remember me, and she will live through you. And I mean, this was a stranger. This was somebody I didn't know. This was somebody that I had just met while volunteering, that immediately went out of her way to take me in and treat me like I was her own daughter. And that's a testament to the people there. That's how they are, and that's how they treat one another.
Amidst the darkness, stories of resilience emerge. Community leaders forging alliances, youth reclaiming their futures through education and opportunity, and innovative programs offering pathways away from the violence that infects their lives. Organizations like Youth Against Violence and iChange have emerged. Some founded by former gang members and community leaders, they work tirelessly to provide alternatives to gang life. Through mentorship programs, job training, and sports leagues, they offer young people and former convicts constructive ways to channel their energy and ambitions. They, as well as I, hope to one day break the cycle of violence by equipping inmates and youths with skills for a life geared toward success. Faith is one of those things that has the capacity to completely alter lives. In the quiet chapels and vibrant plazas of Honduras, faith intertwines with the fabric of daily life. Belief sustains communities through times of hardship and uncertainty. Faith here is not passive. It inspires action and uplifts spirits. As I reflect and discern back on when I first went to Honduras, my very first trip, the thing that stands out was that originally I was going just as a fill-in. They needed an additional faculty member to go down on the trip so that the students could go. And I said yes. And one of the things that I've learned in my life is that when you say yes, God takes you down a path, or perhaps He sets you in a direction where you have to create a new path. But when you say no,
that just stops. So the encouragement, the thing that I've learned most is that sometimes we just have to say yes. And when we say yes, it opens God's door and it opens God's plan for us to further develop as an individual, as a human, as a Christian.
On our most recent trip, we had the opportunity to get a tour of the Basilica in Tegucigalpa. And it was one of the private tours that we were able to go and see some of the areas that I've never seen before with all of my trips to Honduras. And the absolute beauty and inspiration that it gave me just truly is something that I became even more and more passionate about and makes me want to go back every day. We had with us a variety of people, not just Catholics, not just Christians. We had Muslims, we had people of different faiths, and it was always welcoming, and it was just awe-inspiring to see how many of the other people that were with us really viewed the true beauty of the church. I think it's important to understand that the Jesuits have been very impactful in my life from the time I first set foot on the campus of John Carroll University to all the way through my trips to Europe and Barcelona and Rome, and getting to know the Jesuits throughout my career and these years that I've been developing the entrepreneurial leadership exercises has been a tremendous experience and been a true blessing in my life. I think one of the great things about the Jesuit ministries and the Jesuit message is that really it crosses all faiths, and it's something that people can really get to know and understand and truly believe in. Simply put, empathy and the desire to help has no religious affiliation. While we're all people from different backgrounds and ways of thinking, we all collectively decided this work is a necessity, and I don't think that will ever change. The entrepreneurial leadership exercises was an idea that I came up with through my travels through Europe, where I had an opportunity to go to Manresa, which is the cave where St. Ignatius first wrote the spiritual exercises. And it was here that I came to the determination that this was one of the key ways to alleviate poverty. So by putting these entrepreneurial leadership exercises into practice, this should help alleviate poverty, because if we are truly building entrepreneurial leaders and building businesses, it gives people the opportunity to help get themselves out of poverty and help them have a better life. One of the things I've enjoyed doing is to take the coursework that we have at the university and actually take it and customize it to fit the market and the students that we're working with in Honduras, to give them the opportunity to see what their business might be and to provide them with some of the exercises and leadership exercises to help them build and grow their own business. We sat down with the girls and they shared with us that they were making jewelry. So we decided to create a company that would actually be able to take the jewelry that they're making and bring it back to the United States to sell. So the girls right now are experimenting with new different types of jewelry that people would want to buy. And it's been a new venture that we just have started over the last several months. With the students that are there in the orphanage, we gave them some money to start a little business. Some of you are probably familiar with the lemonade stand. Well, they have this little stand and they provide snacks and drinks to people, the missionaries, and to some of the people in the community. When we had the problem with the water in Flor Azul, one of the things we did was we helped set them up with a water distribution business. Now they will buy the 5-gallon jugs of water that we distribute to the village for about $1.42. We actually pay them $2 per 5-gallon bucket that then is distributed to the communities. So they make a nice little profit of over 50 cents for each one of those. To put it into perspective, the average farm worker harvesting sugarcane makes $2 per day for an 8 to 10 hour day working in the fields. So this is a great opportunity for the students to see the opportunity to go out and start a business and do something that helps the community. One of the opportunities that came in front of me was with Elsie when she wanted to create an egg farm.
También él me ayudó con lo de hacer un proyecto de vida, ¿verdad? Digamos, cuando en el 2020 aproximadamente iniciamos con una granja avícola para la venta de huevos. Empezamos con 20 gallinas, vendíamos los huevos, ¿verdad? De ahí, de los ingresos que se obtenían de la granja, pues yo los usaba también para lo de la universidad. Y también así uno que otro gasto que yo necesitaba, pero siempre igual lo consultaba con él, qué podría hacer o qué podíamos optar. Bueno, después de eso, el negocio se dio muy bien en las zonas. Pues compramos más gallinas, él dio otro aporte más para volver a comprar. Llegamos a tener 150 gallinas. Pues se dio muy bien, ¿verdad? Lo que es este proyecto, y pues a mí personalmente me benefició tanto personal como académicamente, porque yo estudié la carrera de administración de empresas agropecuarias vinculada, ¿verdad?, al manejo de una granja avícola. Pues aprendí mucho en este negocio, pues en el manejo, ¿verdad?, podríamos decir, de ingresos, de gastos, de todo lo que conlleva, ¿verdad?, tener un negocio. Los retos también que se enfrentan, por ejemplo, para tratar las enfermedades de los animales, la alimentación, los gastos, que todo esto surge, pues, y ha sido bien ventajoso, ¿verdad?, el tener este negocio, porque de ahí, ¿verdad?, dependía mucho de los gastos. Y pues allá en la zona también, porque sí, las personas tienen gallinas, pero así una, dos, y pues fue un centro de motivación, podemos decir, para toda la familia, ¿verdad? Porque sí, ellos también me ayudaban en la construcción y todo el cuidado cuando yo debía ir a clases y todo eso. Entonces, es un reto, ¿verdad? También un desafío cada paso que se ha dado en este negocio. Y pues, gracias, ¿verdad?, a Dave, que siempre ha estado ahí. Y pues lo iniciamos así, como a decir, para que puedas tener un negocio, un proyecto en el cual vos no necesites depender de alguien más, sino que vos misma manejes el negocio, ¿verdad?
From bustling marketplaces to forging businesses, innovation is thriving despite the hardships. In my role as an educator, I've gotten to explore the stories of visionary individuals who defy the odds to launch startups and small businesses, driving economic growth and creating jobs. Through their stories of resilience, ingenuity, and determination, we get a glimpse of the evolving landscape of opportunity and prosperity in a nation poised for transformation. As our journey over the 7 bridges to Naguara draws to a close, Honduras emerges not just as a land of challenges, but as a testament to unity and boundless hope. The School of Flor Azul, Elsie's Egg Farm, the Orphanage's Shop, the Girls' Jewelry Business are just our first steps towards empowering these people and providing opportunities for independent development. All this would not be possible without our partnership with SAN. The countless hours and inconceivable amounts of effort exuded by the people like Sister Maria Rosa, Marina, Kevin, and so many more allows us to reach these communities and safely provide aid. Together, we continue the fight to build bridges to a better tomorrow. If you're at home watching this, wishing you could help, know that you have the power to. By visiting our site, ftgg.org, or emailing me, you can join the fight.